It's been about 2 months since I took my wife back after she cheated on me. But there was something implausible about her sincere confession. On Saturday morning, after a girls' night out, my wife left her cell phone on the kitchen table when she went to do laundry. Her phone rang, and a message came in from Mark. I knew her password, but I didn't know Mark, who was writing to my wife that last night was the best sex of his life. So good that he and his wife couldn't wait to be together again. I replied, "My husband just left for golf. Come over if you want to do it again." "Let me think of an excuse for my wife. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Send me your address." I sent him our address and added, "Just come over." A dozen different plans ran through my head, mostly involving physical violence, but then a more acceptable plan emerged. Take my wife's phone. I yelled that I was going to Home Depot, drove around the corner, parked the car, and waited. I prepared a message for Mark on her phone. Damn, his game was canceled. He's coming home. I watched as a BMW pulled up to my house, and a middle-aged man approached the door. Before reaching the door handle, he pressed send. He had already started to enter the house when his phone rang. The look on his face was priceless. I made sure the doorbell camera captured everything. He returned to his car and sped out of the driveway. His initial haste prevented me from following him unnoticed. I stopped being cautious when he pulled into his driveway, parked right behind him, ran up to his front door, and started banging on it. The woman opened the door just as the cheater caught up with me. The cheater had her in a headlock, and his wife was in a panic. I said to her, "I'm sorry, but your husband slept with my wife last night, and I thought you should know." Her husband tried to say something, but I tightened my grip. "If you look in my pocket, you'll find my wife's cell phone and the message he sent her this morning." Her husband begged her not to look, but she looked anyway. After reading the message, she started hitting him. I held his face so she could hit him properly. Within a minute, he was bleeding from his nose and mouth. She started to get tired. "I'm going home. My wife doesn't know yet that I know about her affair. I would never hit a woman, but you can." "Let's go," she said. She turned to her husband. "Give me the keys, you bastard. The child is in the car seat. Watch him while you pack your things. I want you to be ready to leave when I get back from talking to this woman. Let's see if she's better than me when I deal with her." On the way to the cars, I said, "My name is Jack. My wife's name is Jessie. What's your name?" "Vicky," she replied. I gave her my address, but let her follow me. She got in right behind me, and my wife yelled, asking if I had seen her phone. Jessie walked into the living room and didn't notice Vicky behind me until it was too late. In the blink of an eye, Vicky closed the gap and hit Jessie in the left eye with her right hand. Jessie hadn't recovered when Vicky hit her hard with her left hand. Jessie fell to the floor, and Vicky lunged at her. Vicky grabbed Jessie by the hair and started banging her head against the tile. I stopped Vicky from killing Jessie. "I have a 6-month-old baby at home, you stupid bitch. You ruined everything." Vicky collapsed on top of Jessie and began to sob. I helped Vicky to the couch, and Jessie curled up in a ball and began to cry as well. "Vicky, would you like some coffee? I think you need to calm down before you drive." Vicky muttered, "Okay." "Jessie, I'm going to have some coffee with Vicky. Find yourself a place to sleep. I hope you're not here when I get back. Here's your phone. Great. You ruined 2 marriages in one night. I hope you're proud of yourself." As Vicky and I were leaving, Jessie shouted, "Jack, please, let's talk." "Jessie, you should be grateful to me for not letting Vicky kill you and for not killing you myself. Don't be here when I get back." Judging by the look on her face, Vicky didn't want to go into the cafe. So I went in, got 2 cups of coffee to go, and drove her to a small park. Vicky looked shaken, staring at the Dalek. "Would you take her back?" Vicky asked. "I don't think that's possible, but I've been given a second chance, especially at work. 10 years ago, I had a problem with alcohol. My main goal was to make sure they never regretted it. I haven't had a drink since, but the next few days are going to be tough. How are you?" I have to think about my son, and I'm not sure Mark and I can afford to live apart. We agreed that I would be a stay-at-home mom until our youngest started school, thinking we would have 2 or 3 children. I can't imagine having more children with Mark. After all, I'm probably terrible in bed. Vicky started crying again. It's not just that he cheated on me, but that he said sex with your wife was much better than with me. My self-esteem took a big hit this morning. I need to go home. Thanks for listening. It's time to start a new life as a divorced woman. Vicky, I'm not saying anything romantic, but call me if you need anything. And thanks for spanking Jesse. Thanks for backing Mark up. I was able to hit him a few times. It felt so good. We broke up, and she rarely called me. She took Mark back. The child changed her mind. Vicky also said she would never let him into her bed again. When I got home, Jesse was gone, and there was a tear-stained letter on the kitchen table, which I ignored. When I sat down, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. She had cheated on me, damn it. My marriage was over. Vicky was right. It was time to start life as a divorced man. But first, I needed to sleep. My attempts to fall asleep were futile, so I got up and started looking for information about divorce in my state. Even though she was the one who cheated, everything had to be split down the middle. I found a checklist, blocked my credit cards, made it to the bank before closing time, opened my own accounts, and divided the balance in our joint account. On the way home, I called my sponsor, whom I hadn't spoken to in years. But now I needed him. He was the only person who had seen me cry since I was a child, and I felt like I was going to burst into tears. He invited me to meet him at a local Denny's restaurant. Over coffee and scrambled eggs, I told him about my day. He asked me a few questions and finally asked what my plans were for the future. I stumbled. The word divorce was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't say it. He knew what I was going to say. It's okay, Jack. I'm sure you couldn't have known we'd be talking about this when you woke up this morning. I'll send you the name and number of my ex-wife's divorce attorney. She's very good. Don't give up, Jack. Divorces take a long time, and your 30-day period will seem like a walk in the park. Just because you started the process doesn't mean you have to see it through to the end. I'll also send you the number of a counselor. The person you met when we first met has retired. You'll like this woman. She's straightforward, and I know you'll like that. When I listened to him, I always felt like I was in control. Not that I could control everything, but I could control my reaction. Sunday was just awful. Jessie kept texting me. She wanted to talk. She was at her mother's. She needed to pick something up from home for work on Monday. I told her I'd go to the store at 3. She could come then and hurry up. At 3 o'clock, I went to Home Depot, then to the grocery store. I can cook, but I didn't want to, so I bought fried chicken. Jessie came and left while I was out. She sent me a text asking if I had read her letter. I didn't respond. I installed the new locks and then dug into the chicken. When I went to bed, I was proud of myself for not even thinking about drinking. Monday was a little better. I had things to keep me busy, and I made an appointment with a lawyer for Wednesday and a psychologist for Tuesday. I kept moving forward. Monday night was terrible when I found Jessie sitting on the porch. Her left eye was still swollen, as were her lips. You changed the locks, Jack? Why? We can work this out. Please talk to me. Jessie, I understand that at some point we're going to have to talk, but I'm not ready, and the more you pressure me, the less you're going to like the outcome. By the way, I blocked our credit cards. Jack, please stop. I have to explain what happened. It's not what you think. Jessie, I can't believe what you just said. You're living in a fantasy world if you really think that, or think I'll believe it. I have a meeting with a divorce lawyer on Wednesday. You'd better find yourself a lawyer, too. Please, Jack, don't divorce me. I can't live without you. She curled up on the steps of our house again. I picked her up, carried her inside, and laid her on the couch. She cried for a while longer, then fell asleep. While I was taking a shower, she got up and left. There was another note on top of the previous one, asking me to read them. I didn't do that, and went out to dinner with my sponsor instead. The meeting with the lawyer went as expected, and she will have all the documents ready by Monday. But in between, my sponsor reminded me of all the people who gave me a second chance, and although I had quit drinking before I met Jessie, she was a pillar of support that helped me stay sober. He added that he wasn't trying to influence my decision one way or the other, but that I should imagine my life with Jessie and without her. Divorce usually causes people to start drinking, more out of loneliness than anything else. My counselor gave me similar advice. Don't act out of anger over betrayal, but do what's best for my mental health. To make matters worse, Jessie's mother started calling me and begging me to spare Jessie. I was never her favorite child, and she was never my favorite daughter. It must hurt her to beg me to give Jessie a second chance. Jessie sent me a text message. "Jack, please go to counseling with me." "Have you already contacted a lawyer, Jessie?" "We don't need lawyers, Jack. We need counseling." "You're the one who's changed, so I understand why you need counseling, and I'm seeing a counselor and my sponsor myself to stay sober. I've also seen a lawyer and filed for divorce. I can give you the papers or mail them to you." "Please, Jack, go with me to counseling." "Please, Jessie, go see a lawyer." "I'll go see a lawyer if you go with me to see a psychologist. The court will probably order us to go to counseling anyway." My lawyer had already warned me about the court-ordered counseling, so I agreed, but she needed the divorce papers and wanted her lawyer to contact mine before I met with her therapist. A week later, Jessie was standing at my door. "Jack, give me the key, please. I've needed to use the bathroom since I got here. You have a camera on the doorbell, so you'll know if I go in without your permission." I gave her the key, and she rushed into the apartment. When she was done, I was sitting at the kitchen table, holding the envelope. She took the envelope, her face turned pale, and she staggered. I managed to catch her before she fell to the floor. She began to sob on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Jack. I can't believe we're talking about divorce, and the worst part is that it's all my fault. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't even think about giving you a second chance, but I have to fight for it, otherwise I won't be able to get out of bed in the morning. Please read the letters I wrote to you, Jack, at least before we go to the psychologist. I have a meeting with my lawyer tomorrow morning." I was still holding her, and she looked at me as usual, waiting for a kiss. Letting her go was painful for both of us. She didn't say a word as she left. 2 weeks later, we had an appointment with her psychologist. Before the session, I read her letters. There was no explanation as to why she had let him have sex with her, only her immediate regret once it was over. She cried all the way home in the taxi, then stood on the porch crying for another hour. Most of the letter was about how Jessie begged me to forgive her. I was left with more questions than answers. I went back to the camera and saw that Jessie had indeed spent almost an hour there crying. The first session went as expected, and he asked Jessie what she wanted out of these sessions. "I want Jack to find a way to forgive me. Give me a second chance. Let me come home. I ruined everything, I know I did. And if I had any doubts, my jealous wife knocked them out of me. I swear I'll never let this happen again." Jessie was on the verge of tears, then threw herself at my feet, begging for forgiveness. I helped her back to her chair. "What do you want, Jessie?" "Before we can talk about forgiveness or anything else Jessie wants, I need to understand how we got here. What is she asking forgiveness for? For getting caught? For ruining everything? What about the pain she caused me? I had to call my AA sponsor for the first time in years. Does she want me to forgive her for all the dreams she destroyed? Where the hell is the explanation for why she ruined 2 marriages? Her lover had a 6-month-old son when he slept with my wife. I may have said other things, but it's hard to remember now. By the time I finished my tirade, Jessie was curled up in the chair in a fetal position, sobbing hysterically. I picked Jess up, told the counselor that I thought we should end the session, and drove her to her mother's house. Jessica seemed unable to move, so I carried her into her mother's house. After putting her on the bed, I tried to leave without talking to her mother, Joyce. Looks like the psychotherapy session started with a bang, Jack. Joyce, we've never gotten along, and I'm not comfortable discussing this with you. Talk to Jesse in the morning. No one gets along with me, Jack. You're no different from the rest. I don't even get along with myself. Jessie can barely stand me. How many times have you seen her call me or come over, even though I live 20 minutes away? As for why she's here, all she said was that she cheated on you, and you asked her to leave. I don't blame you. I would have done the same. Joyce left me confused. She just stood there staring at me. I could smell vodka in her glass and was sure it was just vodka on the rocks. She noticed me looking at her glass. Yes, Jack, I have a drinking problem. Jessie told me about your drinking problem a long time ago, so I'm sure you can recognize the signs. But this is all I have left. This and this house. There are other options, Joyce. AA saved my life. Really, Jack? I don't want to save my life. I'm looking for a drunken end. Joyce, there isn't a person in AA who hasn't said the same thing. Please come with me to a meeting. Why? So I can push a whole room of people away, Jack. Maybe, but I'm sure there will be other people there who specialize in pushing people away. There's a meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I'll be here at 7:30, and please try to be as sober as possible. What about Jessie? Joyce, you'll have to talk to her. Maybe start by telling her you're going to the AA meeting with me. The next day, Jessie sent me a text asking how I had convinced her mother to go to the AA meeting. I didn't respond. That was between her and her mother. Jessie decided to go to her next therapy session alone, 2 weeks later. Another 2 weeks passed before our next session, and Jessie sat with a stack of crumpled pieces of paper covered in scribbles and tears on her lap. The therapist nodded, and Jessie began to read, I've known Mark for several years. He works for one of the companies that rents office space in my building, and he sometimes stops by our office. Until recently, we only exchanged polite greetings in the elevator. Several times, groups of employees from different companies would gather at the bar for happy hour. During one of these happy hours, Mark sat down next to me and we started talking. Nothing special or worth mentioning. He mostly talked about how much he loved his son. There was another happy hour when Mark showed up again, came right up to me, and started talking. I don't remember anything special about our conversation compared to the conversations I had with other people who were there, whether they were employees of my company or other companies. I think there was another happy hour before the bachelorette party, when I ruined everything. Jessie began sorting through the papers and finally stopped at one that seemed almost completely crossed out. The bachelorette party was more like a wedding reception. I wore a nice dress, nothing sexy, but several levels above what I usually wear to work. I knew I was going to drink, so I took a taxi to the bar. Mark was there with me. I danced with some women from work and with Mark. Knowing I wasn't driving, I didn't keep track of how much I drank. One of the older women dragged me into the ladies' room and told me that my admirer was groping me on the dance floor and that I'd had too much to drink. I got angry at her. I was an adult and knew what I was doing. I couldn't make any more mistakes. When I got back to work, I apologized to her. Most of the rest of the evening was a blur. I know I liked the way Mark touched me, and I didn't mind when he kissed me. I don't think any of my colleagues were still there. Mark suggested we get some fresh air and drove me in his convertible. We ended up in a small park and sat down at a picnic table. I remember being in the car, but I don't remember getting in. I remember sitting at the table, but I don't remember getting out of the car. By that time, I was sober enough to realize that I had ruined my life, and I started crying. Mark helped me into a taxi, and as I said, I cried all the way home. I laughed when I read his message about how great the sex was. I almost passed out. Jessie looked at me for the first time in the session. This woman was trying to warn me, but I was too stubborn to listen to her. Maybe I was already drunk and couldn't think straight. Our session was almost over, and he asked me if I wanted to say anything to Jessie. I need time to process all this. I saw hope in Jessie's eyes. Joyce came to the next AA meeting, the second of her life. I was surprised when she stood up and said, "Hi, I'm Joyce and I'm an alcoholic." It took me 6 meetings to get to that point. I knew I was an alcoholic, but saying it in front of a room full of people takes courage, or in this case, bravery. I was surprised when she confessed that she had been cheating on her husband for a long time and that the stress had caused her to start drinking. He found out, and she promised to stop seeing the other man, but a few years later she started seeing someone else and began drinking again. Her husband wanted a divorce, and the marriage was beyond repair. Fortunately, her daughter was in college and didn't know anything. Her husband died in an accident at work before the divorce was finalized. After that, she had no reason to stop drinking. Over the years, I've heard hundreds of stories like this, but hers struck me. I would have reached for the bottle, too. Jessie asked me 100 questions when I gave her mother a ride. I told her I had no right to discuss what her mother had said if she had shared it in a meeting. She also wanted to know if I had any questions about our last session. I ignored that question. I resumed my weekly meetings with my sponsor, except for a few phone calls during the week. As usual, the next session was devoted to Jessie and my thoughts. I told him Jessie's story. "You were in the same situation, Jack, doing all kinds of stupid things when you were drunk. Things you would never have done sober, and then you apologized." "Yes, and I promised I would never do it again until I got drunk again." "But you quit, Jack." "Yes, but answer me this, Mr. Sponsor." I told Jessie right away about my drinking problem, about my relapses, and about the hundreds of people I'd let down. I find it suspicious that Jessie blamed her infidelity on the one thing she knew was my weakness. "You doubt the sincerity of her apology?" "I don't doubt her sincerity. I doubt she was as drunk as she said she was. Look, we've both slept with women who were drunk out of their minds and couldn't remember anything the next day. Was sex with any of them so amazing that you had to text them the next day to tell them they were the best you'd ever had? I don't believe that, and Jessie even joked about it." "What are you going to do about it?" "I don't think I can do anything about the inconsistency, but I talked to her about it at our next session. At least I think I did. At the end of the day, I know I'll forgive her, and probably get back together with her. How many people have forgiven me for the stupid things I've done when I was drunk? Besides, it kills me when she curls up in the fetal position and cries hysterically." The next therapy session took place more than 2 months after Jessie cheated on me. He started the conversation and asked if I had had time to process his confession. I replied, "You may not know about my struggle with alcoholism. There are years of my life that I don't remember. But a few people have forgiven me and given me a second chance, especially at work. Every day, I make it my goal not to let those people regret giving me a second chance. Jessie knows this. I told her everything about my drinking problem before our relationship got serious. The victim of infidelity in a marriage is the loss of trust. I'm sure you know that. That's why I'm skeptical that Jessie blames it on alcohol, the one thing I would be obligated to forgive. I'm ashamed to admit that I had sex with women who were so drunk that they had memory problems the next day. It was a step above having sex with a dead woman. I don't understand how Mark could get so turned on by sex with a heavily intoxicated Jessie that he sent her a text message the next morning confessing that it was the best sex of his life." Jessie curled up into a ball again and began to sob. "The other problem is that I love Jessie more than she can imagine. Seeing her like this is killing me. Can I forgive her? I forgave her a long time ago. Will we be able to go back to the way things were? I don't know. It's like lending your friend your new car and he returns it with a long scratch on the fender. He apologizes, and you can forgive him. Maybe it's not his fault, but your beautiful new car will always have that scratch." Jessie perked up when I said I had forgiven her long ago. She knelt down at my feet again, begging me to let her come home and promising to be the best wife in the world and to do everything in her power to make things even better than before. "Please, Jack, can I go home with you tonight?" I said yes, and she jumped into my arms and showered me with kisses. Jessie turned to the counselor and thanked him, and he replied that he hadn't done anything. When Jessie walked through the door, she had a smile on her face that was contagious to everyone around her. I asked her to call her mother and tell her where she was. The smile disappeared for a moment, but she called her mother and happily told her that I had forgiven her and taken her back. Joyce asked to talk to me and simply thanked me. As soon as we got into bed, Jessie tried to initiate sex, but I refused. Jessie, please, I need to take it slow. We also need to discuss some changes for the future. We both have work in the morning. Let's talk on Saturday morning, and then we'll have the whole weekend to make up for lost time. Okay, Jack, but on Saturday I'll be with you until you see the stars. On Saturday morning, Jessie and I sat down at the table with cups of coffee. She looked at me with shining eyes, just like in the psychologist's office. They sparkled until she saw the envelope on the table. Jessie, I forgive you. I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I didn't, and I still love you as much as I did on our wedding day. She tried to smile, waiting for the but. Forgiving you is easy, but rebuilding our relationship will be difficult. It's like a scratch on a new car. It can be polished out, and I think only time will help us become what we were before. I don't see any reason why that can't happen. The hardest part is trust, Jessie. Will I ever be able to trust you again? I still find it hard to believe your story. I can't disprove it, but it doesn't seem plausible to me. Maybe it's just another side of the trust issue. To get past this, I want you to give me all your passwords, your phone, your tablet, your accounts, everything. I know it sounds like an invasion of privacy, and if you don't want to, I've asked my lawyer to prepare another set of divorce papers. Is that all, Jack? Yes, Jessie. Jessie's eyes lit up again. Can I sleep with you first before I give you my passwords? I won't make the same mistake again. I realize I can't live without you. Can we go to bed? Jessie threw open her robe, revealing a very sexy negligee, one of my favorites. Without waiting for an answer, she grabbed my hand and dragged me into the bedroom, where she pushed me onto the bed. The last 3 days have been hard on both of us, Jessie. After washing up, Jessie sat down in the living room and started writing down her passwords. I filled our cups with coffee and started looking through her phone. The messages from Mark were still there, including one I hadn't seen before, in which Mark warned Jessie that his wife was on her way. There were several messages from her co-workers who wanted to know if I had beaten her. She had missed a few days of work, and then in a group message she told them that she had cheated on me. The guy's wife had found out and beaten her up. Jack was divorcing me, and I wanted to die. Are you going back to sleep, Jessie? I'm really hungry. Will you take me out to dinner, Jack? Show everyone that I'm your wife again. There was that pleading look in Jessie's eyes that I always found hard to resist. Not that I wanted to. Sure, Jessie, but I think we both need to take a shower before we go. I'm first, she shouted, running down the stairs. When I got out of the shower, Jessie was in a short dress, finishing her makeup. I always liked it when she wore that dress. It wasn't one of her favorites. She said it made her breasts look small. I teased her, saying that was what I liked most about it. You like it, Jack? She asked, turning slightly. She turned again, this time a little more sharply. I walked over and hugged her. You're going to make me start, Jessie. And then I'll ruin your makeup and we'll be late for our reservation at Menino's. Jessie hugged me so tightly that I was afraid she would break me. Menino's had always been the restaurant we went to when we celebrated something important. In my mind, and perhaps in hers, we were celebrating her becoming my wife again. We walked into the restaurant and Jessie was smiling, her eyes sparkling as she squeezed my hand. Dinner was fantastic, as always. The name of the sauce they used in some of the dishes translated as angry sauce, and I really liked it. The next morning, I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with Jessie's story. When I woke up, the sun was shining in my eyes, and Jessie's story was running through my head again. I was missing something. After making coffee, I flipped through her laptop. Jesse and I had separate bank accounts and split household expenses. There were 2 ATM transactions for $50, one on the night she cheated on me and one on the Friday before. 2 days after she moved in with her mother, there was a transaction for $500. Jesse belonged to a generation that hated cash, and then I realized what was going on, grabbed Jesse's purse, and dumped its contents on the kitchen table. There was a small bottle of white powder. I've never been a big fan of cocaine, but a small sample confirmed my suspicions. I walked around her to get dressed, and as I left the house, I called my sponsor. He answered with a laugh and said he knew someone would need him and that he was on his way to Starbucks, so I met him there. I had the bottle. My sponsor was the most patient person I knew. Sometimes I had to remind myself that he had a drinking problem too. He sat there while I mumbled almost incoherent sentences, jumping from one topic to another, sipping his coffee. Finally, I ran out of steam. "Jack, you've always been one of my favorite people. Usually you already know the answer before you come to me, and all I have to do is help you see it. Jessie slept with a man when she wasn't in a state to be responsible for her actions. Does it matter that it was cocaine and not wine? Yes, she lied. She knew you would understand alcohol, but she wasn't sure you would understand drugs, and she is madly in love with you, and you are madly in love with her. How many times have you told me she is your soulmate, your rock? If you were really that upset, you would have kicked her out before coming to me." "I want to talk to Mark's wife," I said. "Jack, I don't know what you hope to accomplish, but don't forget that Jessie is probably still sitting on the stairs, afraid to move, or doing something much worse." As soon as I got in the car, I called her. My call went to voicemail twice before she answered. "What are you doing, Jessie?" "I was sitting on the stairs like you told me, Jack. Please come home and let me explain why I lied." "Jessie, my sponsor helped me calm down, and I'm sorry I reacted that way. I think I understand now. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me." "I'm the one who should be asking you to forgive me, Jack." "We can talk about it over breakfast, and I can show everyone that you're my wife again. I love you, Jessie, but I need to stop somewhere before I get home. I'll call you when I'm on my way." "I love you too, Jack." I called Vicky, Mark's wife, and asked if I could talk to her. She said she had kicked Mark out again so I could come over. The baby was already a toddler and was taking funny little steps, and an idea began to form in my head. It wasn't clear yet, but I knew it was there. It turned out that she hadn't been able to kick Mark out, because last week he had been beaten up by another jealous husband. When the jealous husband was arrested for assault, he told the police that Mark had been selling his wife cocaine and using her when she was high. Mark was already on his way to the hospital, and the police asked if they could search his car and house. Vicky agreed, and they found enough cocaine in the car to arrest Mark for drug dealing. They took the handcuffs off the jealous husband and told him not to leave town. Vicky sat and stared at her cup of coffee. "So I'm basically in the same position I was in when you knocked on my door, except now my son is 10 months old and I have no income. What are you going to do?" "In the short term, I'm going to put the house up for sale, hoping to cover the expenses and move in with my parents. They live in the next state and will be happy to have their grandson nearby. But first I'm going to divorce that jerk. How's Jessie doing? I'm guessing you're here because of some problems." I put the bottle on the table. "I'm so sorry, Jack. If it's any consolation, that jealous husband crushed Mark's manhood, and he'll never be able to have sex again. I thought you said Jessie blamed his infidelity on alcohol." She lied. Her story never made sense. It's impossible to imagine that a woman who was almost unconscious gave Mark the best sex of his life. I may have already told you that I'm a former alcoholic, and I think Jessie lied in the hope that I would show more compassion for someone who ruined his life with wine, since I have a lot of experience in how to ruin your life with alcohol. I was too harsh with her this morning, and I need to go home and make things right. Call me, Vicky, if you need anything. I have a lot of friends who owe me. We can give you a ride if you need help." Jessie was sitting on the couch surrounded by tissues, her eyes and nose red. I hugged her and apologized. She hugged me back and apologized, promising to be 100% honest if I didn't kick her out again. "Jessie, kicking you out is the last thing on my mind. Tell me about the cocaine." "When I first met Mark at a party, he offered me cocaine. I had never tried cocaine before, but I liked it, so I bought some from him. I used some, and he sold me more that same night. Maybe it was because I had drunk too much, but I lost track of how much cocaine I took until I had used it all. The rest of the night was a blur, as I explained to my therapist. When you kicked me out, I was confused, depressed, and ended up buying $500 worth of cocaine. I only used it twice and realized I was following in your and my mother's footsteps. I should have thrown it away, but I was afraid it would ruin our reconciliation." We kissed and hugged again, and I asked if she wanted to have breakfast after all, to which she replied that she needed to work on her makeup and put in her eye drops first. Over breakfast, I told Jessie what had happened with Mark. "I wonder how many women like me are out there, Jack." We were finishing our coffee when I said, "Jessie, how would you feel about us having a child?" I was looking at Vicky's son. That's all I got out before Jessie hugged me, kissed me on the face, and knocked the table over, and we both fell to the floor. People rushed to help Jessie, and she finally let go of me and was sat back down in her chair. I was able to stand up on my own. The waiters and manager gathered around us. "Are you okay, miss?" they asked. "More than fine," she shouted. "My husband and I are having a baby, or rather we're going home to do it." Some people applauded, the waiters broke into smiles, and the manager found our bill on the floor and tore it up. He held up his name tag and said, "If it's a boy." Vicky did call when Jessie was pregnant. She didn't need help moving, but she was selling all her possessions and needed help getting things out of the house. I gathered a group of people from my AA meeting to help and threatened to kill them if they showed up drunk. In the end, I bought everything the baby needed, and I needed help getting it all into the house. We had a year's worth of clothes and toys for a boy, so I was hoping we would have a son. Joyce, remember her, had been unable to get her 30-day badge for a long time because of a relapse. She got her badge for a year around the same time she became our son's grandmother.